site uses technology to update an interactive map allowing women to mark unsafe spots to warn others.
People think of Sydney as one of the most livable cities in the world. But for a lot of young women, walking the streets alone elicits a sense of fear.
It's hard to find anyone today who hasn't been a victim of street harassment.
I have experienced harassment on the streets. My friends have experienced harassment on the streets. It is a massive problem.
I've actually had people pull up beside me in a car and ask me to get in the car. I've had sexual touching, especially on public transport. It's literally a woman's everyday experience.
And joining us this morning is youth activist Alice Rummery and Kripa Krithivasan in Sydney, and Free to Be's head of advocacy, Hayley Cull, in Melbourne. Morning to all of you. Hayley, firstly to you, can you tell us what are the parameters for good and bad behaviour?
People can drop any sort of pins on the map around places that they feel safe and happy and welcome, or any negative pins around places that they feel unsafe or perhaps a little bit intimidated. What we're starting to see through the map is sometimes really quite serious instances of violence and abuse, but often much more common everyday experiences of harassment, whether that's things like catcalling or being shouted at in the streets, being groped or grabbed or followed down the street, behaviour that's really not acceptable. And so by dropping pins on the map and taking part in Plan International's campaign, we're really hoping that we will start to get a really clear picture, more than ever before, of what girls and young women are experiencing in the cities, so that decision makers can start to change it.
Very good idea.
Okay, this is being rolled out in 5 cities around the world. Sydney is one of them. The other 4 are in other places, in other places in the world. Alice, your experience with harassment, what has it been?
Yeah, so I've had multiple experiences of harassment, from, like you saw in the video, men pulling up in cars beside me asking me to get in, people coming up to me and yelling about my appearance into my face. But one thing I'd like to bring up is, we hear a lot about this in the discussion, the big things that I've talked about, but a lot of the painful stuff is the small things like catcalling, wolf whistling, or stuff like that, that just pushes my sexuality into my face when I'm just trying to get home. And all of these things are awful, but the most awful thing for me is that my experience is indicative of so many other women's experiences. My story isn't unique or special. It's every person that I've talked to has experienced something like this, or even more severe.
Yeah, which is sad, really, isn't it? Kripa, where are some of the more dangerous spots that you've encountered difficulties?
I think, so the map launched on Tuesday, and I don't know if there's been particularly really safe or unsafe spots that have come through.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of indicative of the fact that no one is exempt, and it doesn't matter if you're in a safe spot or doesn't matter if you're in an unsafe spot. The idea is more that everyone experiences sexual harassment or street harassment, no matter who you are,
Is there
where you
somewhere
are.
you would avoid in Sydney, just off the top of your head, right, I'm not going there at that time of the day or night?
Public transport. Public transport's definitely something that's a pervasive thing that where most women feel unsafe, I feel.
Well, at least this has got us talking about it as well, and I hope that the website is useful to people. Hayley, thank you. Alice and Kripa. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's time for the news now. Who's up?
Thank you and good morning. Detectives